Days of Our Lives is back on Peacock.
Well, that's wonderful.
So there was a period, yes, my mom watched Days of Our Lives every day religiously. So I was following the storylines peripherally.
Yeah.
I wasn't really a watcher, but I knew what was going on with Bo and Hope and Roman and Marlena.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of good daytime stuff. Donahue, Oprah Winfrey.
Wow.
She came on at like 4 p.m. So usually that was
that's
like
pretty
after
late.
school. Yeah.
So was that weird to be at home and to watch these daytime shows, or were you like, oh, I really want to be sick because I want to continue to stay home so I can follow these storylines, or whatever. Like my son, married my stepdaughter or whatever.
There's some good plot lines in Days of Our Lives. No, I feel like I said, it was really tough for me to convince my mom to let me stay home sick. I had to be like really, really sick in order to stay home. There were times I tried to fake illnesses that never worked out.
Oh yeah. What did you fake?
I remember one time specifically I took a thermometer and I put it on like one of the floor heaters to like heat it up. And then I gave it to my mom to show her that I had a fever and it was like 120 degrees. And she's like, "All right, buddy, you're either dead or you're faking it."
Sounds like E.T. I think they did that in there.
Did they really? Oh,
He had a
maybe that's where
light
I got
bulb
it
that
from.
he put it right.
No, I did it on my little wall heater.
It's funny that you're talking about E.T. because I remember in our last episode we were talking about E.T.
I hate that
E.T.
movie.
sheets.
I hate the sheets.
Yeah. Well, Happy New Year.
Oh, yeah.
Happy New Year.
Merry New Year.
Merry New Year. And welcome to the 4th episode of the podcast re-quel, where we talk about the episodes that we made many years ago.
5 years ago.
5, yes. Episodes that we did 5 years ago, where we talk about the making of and just things that we think that were interesting about them. And today we are going to talk about The Princess Bride. And Ara, I just have to say, Princess Bride. Why did we do Princess Bride?
In general or at the time?
At the time, I think we talked briefly about this before. Is like, why did we do Big? Why? What were we thinking of? Maybe 80s centric, I guess. But why Princess Bride?
Yeah, I mean everything up to this point had been 80s, right?
Everything.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's one of those. Again, it's obviously we chose movies that we both enjoy. And Princess Bride was one that we were always quoting, so it just made sense as far as our trajectory to talk about that film.
Sure.
Of course, you've got, the Chris Guest, and we're also big Spinal Tap fans in that whole arc. And it just seems like one of those movies that you could talk a lot about sequels or prequels to it. It's just kind of got this built in, like anything with fantasy, you could kind of create this whole world around it. So it seemed like maybe we thought it would be easy to talk about.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I mean, I think at this point of the episodes that we had done, because I was just like, well, why didn't we talk about Indiana Jones, or why didn't we talk about, Batman, or why didn't we? And I don't know, we did Back to the Future, but then we scaled back and we did Big Trouble, we did Big. Neither of those movies had sequels. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, what could we do if they did have sequels? What could we do if they came back? And I think that was maybe more of a drive that we had at that time. So Princess Bride didn't have a sequel. So it's like, well, maybe that's why we chose that. But I do recall that Princess Bride for us was, as we have stated before, a turning point in the show and a new direction.
Do you mean the episode? Yeah.
The episode itself, yeah. And I think a lot of that had to do with, and I should have taken notes on this, but this was an episode that we actually filmed twice. The first time was, like we had done previously, we did not use any lights. It was just shot in rooms that were naturally bright. So, but we went back to the same room that we did the first episode in, but it was later in the day.
This was
and
shot
we were
in the kitchen
in the
of my
kitchen,
home. Yeah.
yeah.
Where
And
did we shoot the first Princess Bride? Was it in the kitchen?
it
Or
was
was
in the kitchen. It was in the same spot.
it just happened to be a different time of day?
Different time of day. It was too dark, and we were looking at the footage, and we also. I really think that we had a camera, not your phone camera, but we brought in a different
Like
camera.
a Canon or something, but
Yeah,
not
and-
ours. Yeah.
Not ours, what we eventually would film on, and then it was like it wasn't picking up the light. And I didn't know that much about the cameras anyway, and it just didn't. It was not something that we would say like, yeah, we could release this, which is a big step for us because after looking at the footage for Back to the Future and it's like misaligned and just kind of some things were off, and you're like, just go with it. It's like first episode, it's fine. We'll make a joke of it. But I think at this point we were like, no, let's do it again.
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
take
yeah.
it seriously and let's put some effort into this. Write
Yeah,
a
just-
script and all that.
Thinking of our technological capabilities or lack thereof, I mean, we're using a green screen like we even did from episode 1, but
Right.
yeah, we probably borrowed a DSLR. We were probably still just using one room mic because we didn't have the mic packs yet. But aside from the creeping sun throughout the episode, yeah, it was definitely a point where we start to take the production value a little bit more seriously and
did.
not be completely satisfied or not be happy unless it was what we needed and what we wanted from it. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I just, it was one of those where it was like, well, the first time was too dark. The second time, the first half of the video, the first 4 or 5 minutes is fine, but like right around halfway through, you start to see the sun creeping up on the side of my face. So that's why we basically had to go to Florida. That was not intentional. That was like a post thing where we had to explain why the sun was creeping through and shining in our faces.
Well, as semi-post in the episode, it was like the sun is coming in, and like, can we make something of this? Like in the episode, we make the conscious decision to go to Florida. And
You do say, yeah,
we do
it's-
snapping,
You say it's getting hot, let's get out of here. And
right? So, and that's when the sun went away, I guess. But when did we do the snapping? Like when
I was
did
just
that
going to ask
come
you
in?
that. Was that the first time we had magical powers? Did we do that in Big? No.
I don't think we did that in Big. That doesn't ring a bell.
I think this may have been the first time where we jumped between space-time.
Yeah.
We didn't even have a summoning stone yet.
No. But so wow, I didn't even think about that. So we snapped to get someplace else.
We
Which
didn't do it in Big Trouble. No, we didn't do it definitely didn't do it in Back to the Future. So
No.
yeah, this may have been the first time that we used our Deus Ex Machina, where we're
Yeah.
just like, hey, we need to get somewhere else. Let's just snap our fingers.
but that was again, I mean, you talk about firsts. That was a way to, if you're in control of your story and in control of, what your narrative is, and you're like, we can do whatever we want. Why are we're confining ourselves to these rules, so to speak, and to say like, well, we have the ability to snap to go wherever we want to go. That opens the door for a lot of stuff that we would later utilize quite a bit. More of the fantasy elements that we would incorporate into later episodes,
Sure.
right? But that's cool. For our purposes, it just got us out of a jam, at that
Yeah,
point.
exactly. It was because what do we? Is that in Summer Schlock then? Where we're like, do the little finger snappy thing. Like it was obviously a running gag at that point.
We did, but we used it before. We flew
The flicky thing is what we called it.
flicky. I think we had done a little bit of that in, what was it? It was a later episode.
Because after this is Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween. We didn't do that. Then after
Our
that-
Halloween episode was, strangely enough, grounded in reality more so than the other episodes that came before it.
somewhat, yeah, right. No, but definitely in the summer schlock we did that. Maybe that was the only other time, because I feel like every other time, perhaps you're right. Every other time we like traveled. So when we did Cool Runnings, we flew to
Qatar?
No, we flew to
North Korea.
North
North
Korea,
Korea,
yeah. So we flew there. I think in our White Men Can't Jump series finale, we did flashbacks, but we also, I think we went directly to, because we were making we did establishing shots. So yeah, I mean, I have to check that again, but maybe we did the snappy thing.
You heard
And
it
then
here,
we,
folks.
and then we,
Heard it here first, folks.
and
First
we
time we did magic was in episode 4.
wow, yeah, that's pretty good.
Pretty, yeah.
But it's a fantasy movie in a sense, so maybe it made sense.
I feel like we started out at a pretty good clip, meaning that we got a lot of views in our first video. For our first few videos, it was pretty easy to rack up triple digits, you know?
Was that because new channels are pushed more by the algorithms of YouTube?
Back then, maybe.
Okay.
They certainly aren't anymore.
No.
I think it's also, it was early on. I mean, that was like, we started in the middle of YouTube. Like I'd say the earliest YouTubers that are still around that have millions of subscribers started in 2006, 2007. That's when it was like the Wild West. Google hadn't even bought it yet, right? So by the time we came in, it was like version 2.0. We're into version 3.0 now, right? Where it's completely different. And it's like nobody understands the AI anymore, or the algorithm rather. So that may have been a part of it, but I think it's also, we were telling a lot of people about it. I don't even remember, like, we went from 0 to like 25 subs maybe that first month. I don't even remember like our sub count. I mean,
I don't remember that either.
So I guess what I'm saying is we had more views than subs, so something was working in our favor, at least in these early episodes. So, but again, it's like as things continue to evolve, we recognize certain things that were working and a lot of things that weren't working. So we got rid of the hat budget and the envelope budget,
Right.
which is good. No one's complaining about. But really, it's about halfway through that episode where you can really just kind of see, and we've called it a turning point for the show forever, because you can really kind of see about halfway through where we start to loosen up. It is the second time we had filmed the episode after all, so maybe there was that confidence, like we know what we're doing. But
I think so, yeah.
the moment we really start kind of laughing and having fun is really, I think, when the show entered into, 2.0 of the Honey Wagon, of RQ at least.
Well, I wanted to ask because pretty much as we're creating the show and we're kind of going through and it's like, well, does this work or does this not work? Like, you're going to have ideas. I'm going to have ideas. And like, I feel like it's safe to say, like, you want your ideas to come through. Like, you want those ideas to actually make it onto the show. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Now, one of the things that I was thinking about with, like, I absolutely think it's a good idea not to do a hat budget or to have the hat aspect of it, pulling names out, because it didn't add anything, unless it was like people had actively written in and was like, I want to see this person. So like, if there was more audience participation, maybe we could take suggestions and incorporate that into a show. It's like, maybe that could have worked, but we really were more exclusive, with what we were doing, because we weren't really getting a lot of feedback from people anyway. So it was more of just like, well, let's just make this our own, do whatever we want to do because it's easier for us, or it flows a little bit better. Now, the envelope and envelope thing came about because of a real life situation where I was trying to figure out how to pronounce that word, and I thought, oh, maybe that's kind of funny. Yeah, I wouldn't say that was necessarily a joke, but it was coming from a place of like an experience, right? So it's just kind of a Seinfeldian, like Curb Your Enthusiasm type. Well, is it this way or is it that way? And it's like
Observational, sure.
exactly. So it's like, not to wear out its welcome or anything like that, but just having some fun with something that actually happened. But during that, you were actively, like, as a character, I'm thinking, as actively saying, like, I don't want to do a sequel, or I don't want to do a remake. I don't want this. I don't want that. It's like you were playing like this rock star type, I think you were wearing the same jacket.
I was going to wear the same outfit, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the Metallica shirt. I think Sarah stole it or something.
but like, you in what we did have running was like the competition between us in the episode, and what it looked like was like, did you literally not want to do envelopes, or like, what was your
I
your
think
uh,
the motivation was
background?
that it came to the point where like this was a sacred movie, and it was like we should have our limits. Like we shouldn't redo that. We should not touch this movie.
Yeah.
Or if we do, I think what happened was like if we then I was like finally like okay, I acquiesced. But if we are gonna f with this movie, then at least let it be a sequel, not a prequel or a reboot. That's kind of I think what we said was like maybe my character's really against the idea of touching this movie because it's really sacred.
Yeah.
I don't know why it would be more sacred than Back to the Future, but again, that was first episode, so I think that was kind of what we were going for. So, but yeah, we were really starting to develop that. We're like, let's build the tension between these two characters that we're playing. That's really where it started to kind of build. And then by December that year is when we kind of broke up, right? That's when I stormed off.
Sure.
So it was kind of leading towards that trajectory. It was like we need to get to the point where we're not always just getting along and having a good time. We have to kind of have that tension in there.
Yeah. So the phone call. In the phone call, we it was your idea to take audio that existed already and to splice it into phone call conversations that we would have.
Right.
One of the challenges of that, of course, is
You need to plan for it.
how do
need to
you plan
ahead
for that?
Which we were not big planners back then.
We were not, but as an idea, it made a lot of sense because it'd be kind of, well, you have a celebrity calling you or being called on the phone, and you can have a conversation with them. So
Just take clips from their movies and
perfect.
put them all together.
Now it's finding those clips. How's the audio of that? All of those things. But it was just like that idea of actually having a conversation, taking something and turning it into your own, right? It's not a new idea, but it is something that I thought was really funny, and I thought that it could be incorporated very well into this. And looking at this, because we had rewatched the episode, I think for the first time, for a first effort, I think overall it was pretty good, and just trying to keep that comedy, because it's not just us being funny or saying funny things. It's almost sometimes like non sequiturs of the phone call, of Rob Reiner.
Well, I think the joke was, we're calling Rob Reiner, who's still living at home with his father, Carl Reiner.
Right.
And the only clips we got for Carl were from Ocean's 11, I believe, right?
Yeah, not a lot there.
Yeah.
For him.
And then the Rob Reiner stuff, some Spinal Tap jokes in there. So for what we were working with, yeah, it was a good first attempt. At something which would kind of continue to evolve, the whole phone call thing, which became a big part of the show. Just later on, we decided to invent our own characters as opposed to using real people. But
But it was like throwing those things out to see like what would stick, because it wasn't necessarily like we didn't write these things out as to say like, well, this is the line that we're saying at this time. It was just like, let's see if that works. So a combination of, is that funny? Is it not funny? Should we keep it in? Should we just put that into the outtakes? Whatever it was just, I thought the rubber duck thing was kind of silly and goofy. So like, let's keep it in. But then let's see if we can't figure out how to utilize that line from you into a line from, whatever Rob was talking about. And again, for a first effort, I think it worked.
I'm a director.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm a director. I was interested in finding the core value or whatever he says. But
Also, the joke of me, once I'm done with somebody, I'm just trying to get off the phone. That kind of plays throughout.
yeah,
Yeah, thank. All right, that's great.
yeah, but it's also for me too to be like, well, maybe at this point I put a little beep in there to indicate that the phone call has ended.
Right. We use that joke a lot later.
Yeah.
People hanging up on us or vice versa.
Yeah. So
It's good.
it's the genesis of that, which was really nice.
It was.
Anything else that you want to say about the old Princess Bride?
Well, we do, we tease the upcoming Halloween episode.
It was actually a lot of fun to make.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which will be fun to talk about. and that's a whole other thing, because it's not about a film. It's just us kind of really starting to do some world building, in a sense, where we are working for a studio. That's our first appearance of William Redkin. He had been mentioned before, but this is the first. It's the first upcoming appearance of Redkin. So, yeah, it was a lot of work.
Wow. Okay. I'm not patting myself on the back or anything like that.
I am,
But the
I'll
timeline.
I'll do it for you.
Thank you.
I'll pat your back. You pat mine.
Okay.
I think that's the expression.
It's
Is it rub my
paraphrasing.
back?
Slap.
You slap my back. I slap your front. Oh,
Okay.
Finn DeTrulio, my arch nemesis.
But anyway, yeah. So as we did with the outro for the Princess Bride, where there was a howling wolf or something like that, werewolf, we will end this with I don't know, maybe some exit music. You got exit music on there, right?
Oh,
Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Yeah.
there we go.
All right.
Hopefully that'll show up.
Well, that wraps up our RQ podcast talking about the Princess Bride. Thank you.
There you go.
And you know, it's been fun to do these. We haven't done one in a long time, but I'm very I'm eager to get back into this.
2023 will be our year.
We keep saying that.
Red letter year.
Well, it was interesting too, because in 2017 when we did the Princess Bride, we were like 2023 will be our year.
We did.
So we've been constantly saying 2023 will be
Building
our
up to it.
year. Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much, Ara. Of
Thank
course.
you. My pleasure.
And we will see you all later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Thank. We met at Juilliard. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we were custodial staff at Juilliard. We met there.